today. Very good morning, everyone. All good? Awesome. So, just wanted to kind of quickly introduce GoCodio, and apart from that, I wanted to talk about one of the most interesting topics of the era, which is generative AI and how it is impacting the coding and testing ecosystem. Because this is not about micro improvements, right? We're not looking at small changes that are happening on a daily basis. This is, in fact, a fundamental revolution. So welcome to the headless revolution. Talking about the entire set of things, before I begin, I would like to understand the room here. How many of you have been developers? How many of you are developers? Awesome. That's a very healthy balance. So I think you'll definitely get a lot of these problem statements that we are trying to kind of understand. The very first technical challenge that is with the traditional software development ecosystem is the way the entire software products have been built until now. They've been linear in nature and with monolithic architectures. What do I mean by monolithic architecture? So if you imagine a product as a whole, we have many components within the product, including your front-end components and the back-end components, and now we have the AI component as well, which is acting all weird, and it's trying to kind of fit in both front-end and back-end. So what happens in monolithic architecture is that every single component are dependent between each other, and they create an impact amongst themselves. So imagine you're constructing a building and you have laid out a foundation, and each of those foundational pieces are very much dependent between each other. So that's how the softwares have been developed until now. The reason why I find this as a very challenging problem is because if you want to incorporate any small change within the product, you'll have to take care of all of these dependencies first. You'll have to identify how exactly these dependencies are affecting other dependencies. Like you make a small change in your front end, how is it affecting your back end? A problem of a developer, I hope you all relate to it, right? And that is impacting the way we need to pace up with the entire global ecosystem of development. Every single day, I was in the SF last month, I was looking at all of these amazing product companies that were demonstrating their technology. Every day, about 20 to 25 pitches that were happening were talking about how fast they are with respect to adopting technology. And that cannot happen with these monolithic architectures is what we believe. Apart from that, we also understand that debugging becomes a very big of an issue with monolithic architectures, because if you create a small change, the entire dependencies have to be taken care of, and you need to map them very effectively. I'm talking about mockings as well, right? You need to ensure that the mockings are apt, and you need to ensure that they do not break with the new change that you're incorporating. So 30 to 40% of developers' productive time is easily wasted on a challenge like this. So that's the reason why we believe that headlessness is the future. We need to move towards this very rapidly, and we need to ensure that headless architectures become a part and parcel of how we are building softwares today. Let me explain what exactly headless revolution is, what is headlessness, how exactly we can go about doing it within our practices, right? The very first thing that we do is decouple the front end from the back end. We completely separate them out, and we ensure that the interactions between them are monitored by AI. So we can incorporate a lot of agents to do this. We can incorporate LLMs to do this very effectively. I'll talk about this in the future slide. But decoupling is extremely important. We need to decouple front end from back end, build out separately, ensure that there are no more dependencies between these two ecosystems. This brings about the speed, scalability, and flexibility, and the freedom, of course, to ensure that the rapid-paced environment is definitely kind of happening in your organizations. And last but not the least, I want to kind of help you understand, as a developer, why is it important for you. You'll be able to kind of focus on your niche-specific problem statements. You'll be able to deep dive and delve into the area of expertise that you already are in, right? If you are a front-end developer, you'll be able to kind of explore the entire set of things without worrying about how exactly is it going to affect my backend. So that's something that the headless revolution will bring about. Talking about how we can go about bringing this revolution and making it magical. I think without the advent of AI, this wouldn't have been possible. Generative AI is one such topic of interest that actually can go about making this happen much faster than we ever imagined. I think by incorporating all of these AI models, we'll be able to do it very effectively. So there are some steps that I've kind of jotted down just so that we can make it much easier. The very first thing would be effective integrations. So at GoCodio, what we did was we understood where exactly developers are present. We understood how exactly they write their code, how exactly they change their code, how exactly they push their code towards the production. And that's how we integrated GoCodio with popular tools like your GitHub, VS Code, IntelliJ. So we are present on all of these tools. So integration becomes very important. We do not want to change the developer behavior there. We want to be integrated with the existing behavior. Point number one. The second one would be incorporating agents for two different tasks. The predominant task would be your coding task. The second one would be your testing task. Let us not mix them both together. Because if you know principles of audit, if I am writing the code, I'm not supposed to be evaluating the code myself, right? You need to have some third eye perspective to ensure that the tests are happening from a different person or a different agent altogether. So that's how we'll keep two different agents. One will be your coding agent, which will help you write better code, which will help you think through the strategies on how exactly you can build a particular product with your prompts, with your strategies, of course. And then we go about incorporating a testing agent that can go about identifying errors from the grassroots level. We need to ensure that it happens from the code itself. We do not want to take it to the production side of things. We want to make it pre-production because 70% of overall errors or bugs that come up in the production are introduced during your design phase and your coding phase, something that we are all ignoring up until now. The fourth one would be your real-time debugging and monitoring, right? One of the most important pieces that I have understood while I was talking to a lot of developers that we have, the exact pain point is to debug the bug as soon as it appears, right? We don't want to ignore it because it keeps growing and becoming bigger in size, and then it can become 15 times more expensive than how it was on day one. So we do not want that to happen, and that's the reason why real-time monitoring and debugging becomes extremely important. GenAI can, of course, do this very well. Last but not the least, we want to kind of ensure that feedback loops are in place, not just from the internal standpoint, but also from the user standpoint, where a user feedback is also considered by the LLM. It is continuously learning and improving on how exactly it can go about making this happen. So I will deep dive into the expertise that we come with. It is the testing models that we are building within GoCodio. I'll give you a simple architecture there. What we do is we take your code, right? We are integrated with GitHub. I'll take that example. So we take your code as a context, and that is passed to the LLM, specialized LLMs that are trained to perform testing on the code repositories that you have. We have multiple LLMs that we deploy to do this particular task. We have open source as well as closed source LLMs. For open source, we use our GPTs of the world, we use Gemini, and we also implement cloud. When it comes to open source models, we use Code Llamas and DeepSeeks. So these two models we have trained with in-house data, about 10,000 coding instructions, which are highly curated and highly specialized for the testing use case. And within 10,000 coding instructions, we have seen a very big jump in how exactly they were performing from day one to the fine-tuned models. So we saw there was a significant jump with minor fine-tuning activities. So we can all definitely go about doing this ourselves, right? So that's something that we did. Once the entire set of things were done, we incorporated these LLMs in an agentic architecture, and each of these LLMs were able to tackle every single problem that we wanted to do. So the closed source LLMs like your OpenAI, we use them as a generator agent or the actor. We call it the actor. So that goes about understanding the code context, it gets your contextualization, it understands your complexities, the code complexities, and then it goes about delivering the test cases that you want to generate for your code. The second one we have is the critic agent, which is your Geminis of the world, which act as a critic to the result that has been received from OpenAI. It criticizes the result, it helps OpenAI learn better, it helps OpenAI generate better by criticizing the results. The third one would be your feedback agent, or the agents that are open source in nature that continuously learn within the ecosystem, right? So what we do over here is we take the result from OpenAI, we also take the criticism from your clouds and Geminis, and then we feed it to the open source LLMs, and that is creating IPs for companies, right? You know what exactly has to be tested, and that particular open source LLMs can be deployed on virtual private cloud, which means your code is secure as well. You don't have to let go of your code to any other third-party services. So that is on how we are doing it, and these are some of the differences that I've kind of stated with respect to traditional testing and generative AI powered testing. We all know this, but one thing that we do not know is the shift left approach. Every single company might be talking about it. We want to shift left. We want to identify bugs before they become a problem. We want to handle them right at the beginning. That is something that everybody is talking, but today it is a possibility, and that is something that we are trying to achieve at GoCodio. Let us just take a quick look at one of the videos that we have curated for you. It is a video which will showcase how exactly generative AI is transforming testing. Could we have the video, please?
I write awesome code. 99% of the time, my code is fantastic. Short, elegant, and functional. It's like art. Just for this 1% error chance, I have to waste 3 hours every day writing test cases. Did anyone ask Leonardo da Vinci to test the Mona Lisa after he painted it? Now that my code is compiled, I'll send PR for review to Raj, my manager, who will ask,
what took you so much time?
Creating test plans, writing all the unit test cases, and then running them. Then he'll say, yeah, it's boring, and type the golden words. This is how we used to talk till last month. But then Raj figured out an amazing solution.
I just told my CTO about GoCodio, and he approved it.
It's so cool. I didn't think anyone could ever automate testing, but GoCodio did it. It's a smart AI agent that takes care of all kinds of white box testing: unit, integration, regression, and even functional testing. It integrates smoothly with the compiler. Then its multi-agent architecture understands the code, generates test plans, writes accurate test cases, runs it, and even fixes errors in a matter of seconds.
And it's cheaper than my everyday coffee. But more importantly, now my team can focus on doing what they do the best: writing amazing code.
I feel like an artist again.
Stop testing your team and get GoCodio.
So yeah, that is something that we created so that we can be much more relatable for developers. But having said that, I believe that encapsulates the idea of GoCodio. One of the things that we learned while we were interacting with all of our developer users and while we were creating this particular metric, right? Like, we understood that 30% of developers' productive time can be saved very easily by incorporating these practices. They are very simple to use. They are very effective as well. So just incorporate it and ensure that you save a lot of developer time so that they can go about innovating and focusing on what actually matters, which is building great products. The other metric is the number of features that were developed just by using a product like ours. We saw 10 features getting rolled out every single month on an average. That is the improvement that we saw. And apart from that, 18 bugs that could have been disastrous if they had moved towards production were easily tackled right at the code level, which was day one of you writing the code. So one other example that I would want to highlight over here is how many of you have heard of the Microsoft CrowdStrike event that happened very recently, right? Most of us know about it. Would you believe that a simple unit test, I mean, a simple test that could have been generated by GoCodio as well, it could have completely avoided that billion-dollar mishap that happened? That is the kind of problems that we might face very, very much as we move towards the adoption of Gen AI to a very significant level, especially enterprise-wide. So I believe these tools are going to kind of help us reduce these problems to a very significant level. What is the future? This is my thesis, by the way. You can probably find much more about it. This is something that I have put down basis my understanding. The very first thing would be, imagine the software becoming a human in itself, something that can grow by itself, evolve by itself, heal by itself. That is where we might go and end up at. We are seeing softwares that are being created by the AI, something that is being diagnosed by AI, something that is being healed and taken care of by AI. And apart from that, the feedback is also becoming very important, right? Like, it is able to predict user behavior. How exactly a user is going to like or dislike a feature is something that AI is able to predict. With that, we know for sure that AI is going to be creating the products of the future, and we as developers, we have a very big role to play. That is my belief. I think we'll be strategists, we'll be designing these AI models to work on our behalf for us, and we'll be able to identify and help them build great products. And that is where a developer comes into picture, right? Focus on problem solving and creativity. It's us humans who can actually make it responsible. It's us humans who can actually make it ethical and also make wonders in the world. So that's where developers can definitely come in. So that was it from my side. I would want to keep it much more interacting. So any questions, any thoughts, I would love to discuss.